Welcome. I'm Kinetic Symphony. I hunt down and report on mysterious and weird true stories, from glitches to the paranormal. Case file number 87, written by user HotDogManRidesAgain. On his drive home, a cemetery is seen that did not exist the prior day. On my drive to work, there's an open field just besides a housing estate. I notice it every day because it's picturesque. There's a nice big old gnarled tree in the middle. Usually, it's full of sheep, and I often glance as I drive past just to see what they're up to. I have an ambition to own a farm and quit the rat race, so farm animals are of a big interest to me. Yesterday, as I was driving home, I glanced, and right there was a graveyard, right next to the housing estate, with the big old gnarled tree in the middle. It's not a recent conversion, as there are hundreds of gravestones sprawling all the way across the field and up the hill. No animals anywhere. It's definitely the same place. I turned the car around, pulled up, and had a look. There's no mistaking this is the same place. I would have seen it was a graveyard before. There's too many graves for me to have missed them. And I remember seeing all of the grass, bushes, etc. It's not like I would have missed a place like this. I'm starting to wonder what the hell is going on. You'll see on the third image, that's the tree, but it has now moved closer to the road in these images. I won't be going past there for several days, but will update once I do. Case notes, file number 87. This reminds me of a past case I've read where the individual worked in a facility and drove the same road to and from it almost daily. Then, one day, they drove home and noticed a huge bright power plant where there was none the day before. My hypothesis for that was quantum immortality. They mentioned they were sick in the post, so I figured they died from that illness and their consciousness ported over to the alternate reality. I like to think of it like extra lives in a video game, only we're talking about octillions of extra lives, because it all depends on how many of us exist in alternate universes. And there's almost infinite alternate universes. But in your case, it doesn't sound like you were ill or anything. Perhaps you got into a crash and don't remember. Most people recall their death under quantum immortality, but not everyone does. I'd venture a guess that this is due to how severe or traumatizing the memory would be. Some people's subconscious might be shielding them from that kind of horror. The author very briefly responded, saying, "Possibly. I've had experiences in the past that I believe may be due to quantum immortality." Case file number 88, written by user Anonymous. Lots of driving, lots of adventure. This time, they got more than they bargained for. I did a lot of traveling in a short period of time during Christmas. I went from one state to another, and then back in a few days. And then 8 hours after I got back, my girlfriend and I drove to yet another state for a night, and finally drove back home. This glitch happened on the drive back, so I was needless to say very tired by this point. When we drove down to the second state, there was only one logical route to choose. There were two others, but they were considerably longer drives. However, on the way back, there was another route that was actually somehow an hour faster, and we decided on that one because it didn't take us on a turnpike, and it skipped the tolls. Makes sense, right? I've always been kind of obsessed with parallel universes and timelines and paranormal supernatural stuff, so I probably should have thought a little harder about it, but I wanted to be home and in bed. It was really late when we finally got out of Kansas City. A mild snowstorm was just starting to hit. I'm from Central America, and I've barely seen snow in my entire life. We're in a Challenger that's not well equipped for snow, so I was really nervous about driving, but my girlfriend needed to sleep, so I took the next driving shift. About 2 hours into my shift, I noticed that navigation had taken us effectively into the middle of freaking nowhere. The last thing I had seen was a four-way stop with an abandoned gas station and a just as abandoned looking mechanic shop. The phone service cut out, the radio cut out, and I hadn't seen a house for miles, a town for even longer. The road was barely wide enough for our car, and the temperature dropped significantly as we drove. The farther I went, the lighter the snow got and instead turned into a heavy fog. As in, I couldn't see more than a few feet in front of me type of fog. The road was unusually curvy and the landscape never changed from constant forest. It started to really freak me out when an hour and a half later, there was still nothing. Same landscape, same fog, same narrow road, not a single car in that whole time span. My service and the radio were still out, and I felt like I was on some kind of treadmill. When it hit 2 hours, I woke my girlfriend up and told her about it. I was starting to get nervous, because we were getting close to running out of gas and I couldn't use my phone to check if we were going to see civilization anytime soon. After another hour, we were both really freaked out. The car was almost on empty. We had no way to contact anyone, and we both really needed to pee, but there was no way in hell we were getting out and squatting in the Twilight Zone hell we found ourselves in. Once Challengers hit a certain amount of gas, it just says low and doesn't tell you how many miles you have left, but I was positive we were on fumes at this point. And then I saw that creepy gas station and a four-way stop again. Our cell service came back on. The radio suddenly started playing, and the gas tank was back to 3/4 full, as it had been when I was here last. But it was 3 hours later. I refused to go straight again and went right instead, and about half an hour later we came across a town and the trip went smoothly the rest of the way. I have no idea what happened that night. It freaked me the hell out though. I think I'm going to fly from now on, at least for a bit. Sorry this was kind of long. I'm a big believer in backstory and details. Edit. I went straight at the four-way stop and didn't make any turns off that road, so I don't think I could have gotten lost and landed back at the same spot. Case notes, file number 88. My impression of this is a collective induced hallucination that was shared between you and your wife. The reason I think this as being more than, say, an alien abduction is because even the fuel in your car was reset. I don't think aliens are carrying around refined gasoline. The real question, of course, what would cause the both of you to simultaneously experience this fiction? Almost like you were taken on a Star Trek holodeck for 3 hours. Huh. Effectively, what happened to you, I do believe happened, but also didn't. If that makes any sense. The author responded to my comment, saying, I've been wondering if it's possible for someone to project a dream onto someone else. Someone else mentioned falling asleep at the stop sign, and if my girlfriend hadn't been awake and present for part of the ordeal, I would have thought that was it. Could I have somehow forced my dream onto her, and that's why she remembers it? If you enjoyed the video, give it a like. And if you want to listen to more fascinating stories, there's many more on my channel. I'll see you there.